Lesson 37. The Process of Aging. First listen and then answer the following question. What is one of the most unpleasant discoveries we make about ourselves as we get older? At the age of 12 years, the human body is at its most vigorous. It has yet to reach its full size and strength, and its owner his or her full intelligence. But at this age, the likelihood of death is least. Earlier, we were infants and young children, and consequently more vulnerable. Later, we shall undergo a progressive loss of our vigor and resistance, which, though imperceptible at first, will finally become so steep that we can live no longer. However well we look after ourselves, and however well society and our doctors look after us. This decline in vigor with the passing of time is called aging. It is one of the most unpleasant discoveries which we all make, that we must decline in this way. That if we escape wars, accidents, and diseases, we shall eventually die of old age, and that this happens at a rate which differs little from person to person, so that there are heavy odds in favor of our dying between the ages of 65 and 80. Some of us will die sooner, a few will live longer, on into a 9th or 10th decade, but the chances are against it, and there is a virtual limit on how long we can hope to remain alive, however lucky and robust we are. Normal people tend to forget this process unless and until they are reminded of it. We are so familiar with the fact that man ages that people have for years assumed that the process of losing vigor with time, of becoming more likely to die the older we get, was something self-evident, like the cooling of a hot kettle or the wearing out of a pair of shoes. They have also assumed that all animals, and probably other organisms such as trees, or even the universe itself, must, in the nature of things, wear out. Most animals we commonly observe do in fact age as we do, if given the chance to live long enough, and mechanical systems, like a wound watch or the sun, do in fact run out of energy in accordance with the second law of thermodynamics. Whether the whole universe does so is a moot point at present. But these are not analogous to what happens when man ages. A run-down watch is still a watch and can be rewound. An old watch, by contrast, becomes so worn and unreliable that it eventually is not worth mending. But a watch could never repair itself. It does not consist of living parts, only of metal, which wears away by friction. We could, at one time, repair ourselves, well enough, at least, to overcome all but the most instantly fatal illnesses and accidents. Between 12 and 80 years, we gradually lose this power. An illness which at 12 would knock us over, at 80 can knock us out and into our grave. If we could stay as vigorous as we are at 12, it would take about 700 years for half of us to die, and another 700 for the survivors to be reduced by half again. Alex Comfort, The Process of Aging.
Lesson 38, Water and the Traveler. First listen and then answer the following question. What does this text describe? Contamination of water supplies is usually due to poor sanitation close to water sources, sewage disposal into the sources themselves, leakage of sewage into distribution systems, or contamination with industrial or farm waste. Even if a piped water supply is safe at its source, it is not always safe by the time it reaches the tap. Intermittent tap water supplies should be regarded as particularly suspect. Travelers on short trips to areas with water supplies of uncertain quality should avoid drinking tap water or untreated water from any other source. It is best to keep to hot drinks, bottled or canned drinks of well-known brand names. International standards of water treatment are usually followed at bottling plants. Carbonated drinks are acidic and slightly safer. Make sure that all bottles are opened in your presence and that their rims are clean and dry. Boiling is always a good way of treating water. Some hotels supplied boiled water on request, and this can be used for drinking or for brushing teeth. Portable boiling elements that can boil small quantities of water are useful when the right voltage of electricity is available. Refuse politely any cold drink from an unknown source. Ice is only as safe as the water from which it is made and should not be put in drinks unless it is known to be safe. Drinks can be cooled by placing them on ice rather than adding ice to them. Alcohol may be a medical disinfectant, but should not be relied upon to sterilize water. Ethanol is more effective at a concentration of 50 to 70%. Below 20%, its bactericidal action is negligible. Spirits labeled 95 proof contain only about 47% alcohol. Beware of methylated alcohol, which is very poisonous and should never be added to drinking water. If no other safe water supply can be obtained, tap water that is too hot to touch can be left to cool and is generally safe to drink. Those planning a trip to remote areas or intending to live in countries where drinking water is not readily available should know about the various possible methods for making water safe. Richard Dawood, Traveler's Health.
Lesson 39. What every writer wants. First listen and then answer the following question. How do professional writers ignore what they were taught at school about writing? I have known very few writers, but those I have known, and whom I respect, confess at once that they have little idea where they are going when they first set pen to paper. They have a character, perhaps two. They are in that condition of eager discomfort which passes for inspiration. All admit radical changes of destination once the journey has begun. One, to my certain knowledge, spent 9 months on a novel about Kashmir, then reset the whole thing in the Scottish Highlands. I never heard of anyone making a skeleton, as we were taught at school. In the breaking and remaking, in the timing, interweaving, beginning afresh, the writer comes to discern things in his material which were not consciously in his mind when he began. This organic process, often leading to moments of extraordinary self-discovery, is of an indescribable fascination. A blurred image appears. He adds a brushstroke and another, and it is gone. But something was there, and he will not rest till he has captured it. Sometimes the yeast within a writer outlives a book he has written. I have heard of writers who read nothing but their own books. Like adolescents, they stand before the mirror and still cannot fathom the exact outline of the vision before them. For the same reason, writers talk interminably about their own books, winkling out hidden meanings, superimposing new ones, begging response from those around them. Of course, a writer doing this is misunderstood. He might as well try to explain a crime or a love affair. He is also, incidentally, an unforgivable bore. This temptation to cover the distance between himself and the reader, to study his image in the sight of those who do not know him, can be his undoing. He has begun to write to please. A young English writer made the pertinent observation a year or two back that the talent goes into the first draft, and the art into the drafts that follow. For this reason also the writer, like any other artist, has no resting place, no crowd or movement in which he may take comfort, no judgment from outside which can replace the judgment from within. A writer makes order out of the anarchy of his heart. He submits himself to a more ruthless discipline than any critic dreamed of. And when he flirts with fame, he is taking time off from living within himself, from the search for what his world contains at its inmost point. John Le Carre, What Every Writer Wants, from Harper's.